Hi guys, welcome to Lulu with the Lamp. In the first video in this series, I went over the first 4 steps in interpreting an ABG or an arterial blood gas. We just didn't have enough time to go over the last step, which is deciding whether or not that acidosis or alkalosis is compensated, uncompensated, or partially compensated. If you missed the first video, you can go back and check it out. Or if you need to go over this information in a little bit more detail, you can check out my video on acid-base balance, the link below. Please like and subscribe for more content. So we take a look at the value that is left over and we ask ourselves, is that value within normal limits? If it is, that means the body, in recognizing that it's in respiratory acidosis, that this is high, we've got too much acid, it hasn't actually started to release bicarb to balance that out yet. And it hasn't balanced it out. We are still acidotic. And so in this case, if you like this video and you want to see more like it, is please click on like or subscribe. And okay. Now, if this number, let's just say for the fun of it, this number was 32, meaning the bicarb is high. If the body has started to release higher than normal levels of bicarb, why is it doing that? It's trying to compensate for all of the acidity that has built up in the blood. It's trying to balance itself out. So it's trying to compensate. If this number is normal, then it's not yet compensated. In this case, way back when we were looking at, is it acidotic? Is it acidotic? Instead of putting normal here, we would have put basic, or we would have put alkaline. So let's say we did get to that part over here and it was 32 and we wrote down base instead of, so we had acid, and we had base. And we're looking at this to try to decide, has it compensated? Because it is out of the norm. It has tried to compensate. How do we know if it's fully compensated or partially compensated? Well, that's where we have to go back to the pH again and ask ourselves, has this compensation worked? Has the level of base that our body has released into the blood to counteract this high acidity brought our pH level back down to where it normally should be? Well, in this case, our pH level, it's hard to see there because I've scribbled so much, is still 7.3, meaning it is still acidic. So it has started to compensate, but it has not fully compensated yet. And so we then have a partially compensated respiratory acidosis. The only time we have a fully compensated acidosis is when this value over here, this pH level, has actually found its way back up to its norm. Now, you might ask, well, then how do we know what it is in the beginning? How do we know if it's acidosis or alkalosis? And you feel like you want to pull out your hair. It's because you want to look at all of these numbers together. All the numbers together tell a story. And that's why when I talk about kind of going over those 3 steps, and it's 1, 2, 3, without even kind of thinking your way through, you just write down acid or base, write down acid or base, write down acid or base. Once you have all of that written down, you can go back and go, okay, which ones match? Is the other one compensating, yes or no? Is it compensating enough? So if that makes sense for you, great. If you wouldn't mind taking the time just to like the video or subscribe, I would really appreciate it. For those of you who would like to, I'm going to go over a couple more examples in the next video. And if you go over these with me, you are going to be rocking. You will never struggle with these questions again on an exam. And it will just kind of solidify what I just went through. So let's look at this first one here. We've got a pH of 7. Is it high or low? Is it basic or acidotic? And in this case, it's low, so it is acidotic. So I just scribbled down acid there. We have a PaO2 of 90. Again, make sure you're reading the question. This is a PaO2, not a CO2. I can't tell you how many times my students have gotten these questions wrong because they didn't read carefully. We don't care at your level for questions like these. We don't care what the PaO2 is. We want the PaCO2. Okay, so this is acidotic. Let's take a look at the PaCO2. It's 23. That is below the norm. Again, think it through. CO2 is or causes acidosis. It creates carbonic acid that makes things more acidic. So if it's low, then we are actually basic here. This is basic. What's our bicarb at? Our bicarb is very low. So bicarb, again, is basic. If something is that is basic is going down, we're getting less and less and less of it, we actually are going to become acidotic. So we take a look at that. And again, you're not trying to come up with any conclusion at this point. You're just going to write down acidotic, basic, acidotic. Perfect. Now we know what these three things are. We go back. We know that this one is telling us what the body is as a whole. So we know that the answer to this question is going to end in acidosis, because this body is in acidosis. Which one of these, we just look at these two now, which one of these matches this? Well, it's the bicarb. So we know again that this represents the respiratory system, this represents the metabolism. So because this matches with this, we know that it is a metabolic acidosis. Now let's find out. We've used this. Let's look at the one that's left over and decide if the body has compensated or not. We look at the CO2. It's 23. What is the norm? The norm is 35 to 45. So it is low, it is basic, so it has tried to compensate. Okay, so it's at least partially compensated or fully compensated. So how do we decide? We look back at this level here. The pH level overall is 3.7. The normal, oh no, I did that whole thing backwards. Okay. Now I'm gonna have to edit this video. What a pain in the butt. All right, so let's take a look at this first one here. We're going to look at, and again, we're just going to label them. We're not going to think too hard of trying to put it together. We're just going to label those three things, and then we can match them up later. So first of all, let's look at our pH level. It is 7.0. What is the norm? The norm is 7.35 to 0.45, so it is low. When it is low, that represents acidosis. So I'm going to write down, I usually just write acid or base. You can write acidosis, alkalosis, whatever you want, whatever works for you. And we're going to look at the next number. And I just want to highlight this really quickly because I can't tell you how many of my students have gotten these questions wrong because they didn't read the question or the answer or the options clearly. This says PaO2. This is not the value we want to look at. At this level, and for these kinds of questions, you do not need to worry about the PaO2 level. Just cross it out. We are looking for carbon dioxide. This is the level we want. Make sure you're looking at the right numbers. Again, these are giveaway questions, but only if you take the time to read them and do them properly. So let's take a look at this. Your CO2 is 23. That is abnormal. Now again, CO2 is acidic, so if it is low, that means the blood has become more basic. We look at the at the bicarb. Bicarb is 12, normal is 22 to 40. So it is low as well. Bicarb makes our blood basic. So if it gets lower, our blood is going to be acidic. Now we've got these three things written down. We're going to take a look and we're going to compare. And so the first thing we do is we look back at the pH and we decide, okay, this is representing what the blood as a whole, what is the blood as a whole? And so we know that the answer to this question is going to end in acidosis, correct? And so we're going to look over here. We're going to decide which one of these match. And again, the CO2 turns into carbonic acid, which is acidic. CO2 represents our respiratory system. Just think, we breathe in and out, we breathe out CO2, so it's representing respiratory system. The bicarb is representing our metabolic system. Again, it's controlled by the kidneys. Which one matches? This one. And so we know that it is metabolic acidosis. We're going to cross that one out. So we've used bicarb and we've used this in our answer. So we cross those out. And now we look at the value that is left over to determine whether or not the body has compensated. So right now, our body has our blood is very, very acidic, caused by something is going on with our metabolism, right? And it has become acidic as well. Has the body compensated? Our CO2 level is 23, norm is 35 to 45, right? So if it is lower than 35, it is basic. And so the body has actually started to try to blow off some of that CO2 to decrease the amount of acidity in the blood. It has tried to compensate. So it's either compensated or partially compensated. How do we know? We look back at the pH level. We take a look at it. Is it anywhere near normal? No, it's not. It's way, way, way too low. So even though it's way too low, because the body has started to compensate, we have to call that partially compensated. Okay, let's take a look at the next one. We have a pH of 7.6. Is that basic or acidic? It is basic, right? It's high, 7.6. We have PaO2 we don't care about. We're going to look at the PaCO2 of 31. Is that high or is it low? It's low because CO2 causes acidity. If it's low, it's going to be basic. And then we're going to look at the bicarb. The bicarb is 25, which is actually normal. A little bit high, but like a high end of normal. So that's normal. So again, we're going to take a look at this. We know that overall the blood is basic. So the answer to this question is going to be alkalosis, something alkalosis. We take a look at the bicarb and the carbon dioxide. We find the one that matches. Which one says basic? Well, it's carbon dioxide. And again, we know that this carbon dioxide level represents the respiratory system, so it's respiratory alkalosis. Now let's decide if it's compensated or not. This one's super easy because the bicarb is normal, meaning the body has not changed its level of bicarb to try to balance out the alkalosis, in my other videos, we go into detail as to how or whether that can even happen or how it happens. But for now, we're just trying to interpret these real quick, right? And so we know that this one is uncompensated. I'm going to do one more, and then I will, if you'd like to, you can email me at Lauren@LuluWithTheLamp, and I can send you the rest of these slides and you can practice along on your own. But you can always Google. There are great websites, nursing.com. There's tons where you can just get tons of examples of these and work them out on your own. Again, these are freebie questions, guys. You do not want to give up these answers. Let's do one more. We have a 7.5. Again, this is going to be basic. I'm going to do this one real fast like I would do it if no one else was around. Cross this off. Your PCO2 is normal. Your bicarb is high, meaning that it is basic as well. So this means we are alkalosis. It matches with your bicarb, so it's metabolic. And this is normal, so we are uncompensated. I want to just flip to the next slide because I do think I have one here this top one here. I want to do this one really quickly. So let's take a look at this. We have a pH of 7.39. If we look over at our normal pH is 7.35 to 7.45. When you get a question like this and you're like, the pH is normal. How do I do this? Oh my gosh, how do I do this? And you start, don't panic, okay? Never panic in nursing exams and never panic in nursing practice. Take a deep breath, take a look at this. All I want you to do is I want you to look at this, and yes, it is normal, but I want you to ask yourself, which side of normal is it on? Is it more alkaline or is it more acidic? And in this case, all you do is you just, in the middle of this is 7.4. So anything below 7.4 would be acidic. Anything above is basic. So in this case, it is normal, but it's an acidic normal, okay? And then we're going to go on and we're going to do the rest of this question. So your PCO2 is low, so that's basic. Your bicarb is low, so that is acidic, right? So we know that, yes, it's normal, but because of the nature of the questions that we're answering, we know at some point it wasn't normal, right? And especially because these numbers are off. These numbers are not normal, so something is off. When you see this in real life, it's a different story. This is just for exam questions, right? Something is off here. Real life too, something is off here. So we know that it's normal, but it was acidosis. Which one matches? It would be your bicarb, so it was a metabolic acidosis. And then this is how we know, so we've used this. This is still off. It's still low, and so it is basic. And what that's telling you is that the body has tried to compensate. And again, remember I said go back and look at the pH. Well, in this case, your pH actually has gone back to normal. This is a case of fully compensated metabolic acidosis. And that's why I wanted to just kind of flip through and show you that one, because you don't ever want to just look at numbers, especially in real life, in isolation. You need to look at the whole picture. If you just look at this, you go, oh, we're fine, and off we go. The body is only going to be able to compensate for that metabolic acidosis for so long, and then your organs are going to start shutting down. I've seen this happen in diabetic ketoacidosis, where somebody is in acidosis, and you know, if you only look at this, I mean, if you've ever seen a patient in metabolic or diabetic ketoacidosis, you would see it right away, very often anyway. It is very, very obvious if they come in with numbers like this that something is going on just by looking at the patient. But the point is, we never want to look at something and accept it bang on. Anyway, I hope that helps. I hope you're able to understand this a little bit better. I do have a full video that's going through the rest of these slides that really breaks this down and explains what's happening in the body. But if you just want a quick and easy way of finding these answers because you have an exam tomorrow or in an hour, I can promise you that if you understand what I just explained, you will not have a problem answering these questions. Okay, thanks so much for listening. Please like and subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next video.